Mark Turnbull, our newest member of our club. His wife Katie is also a member of our club, and we spent a lot of time together at district conference this weekend and bought him a drink, and I think he had a good time.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Okay, I will warn you right now. Jason said if you'd like to talk to yourself for about 10 minutes and gave me no guidance, so I'm a little loquacious. So what I did is a simple PowerPoint. One thing that I wanted to start with was a little bit of a story about my last name. And what you can see is the Turnbull name is actually a Scottish name. And what happened is, who here's seen Braveheart? You know the Robert the Bruce, the black-bearded guy who's the king? My ancestor, a knight by the name of William of Rule, actually saved Robert the Bruce when he got into a cow field with a bull. So my ancestor jumped into the pasture, turned the bull away, saved the king's life, got a barony, land, title, all that. Pretty good, pretty good promotion in life. So what I did is, this is actually our family crest on the right, and then the tartan, the Scottish tartan on the left. And what I've done is, if you notice on my website or anywhere, you'll see I've kind of combined it into a more modern take. That's actually the QR code if you scan it and take it to my personal website. But that's something I've always found interesting, is the stories that kind of define who we are and where we come from. Alright, so how I'm going to break it down and talk today is kind of a little bit about where I'm from, where I've worked, my hobbies, and then what I do now. So I was born in Midland, Michigan, which, as you can see on the red dot, is right about the middle of the globe. And the Tridge is the kind of landmark of the city. It's over the confluence of two of the rivers right by the downtown. And as a kid, I always loved wandering because there's parks all around it. And then in 1994, my family moved to Chicago. Yeah, we moved out to the northwest suburbs, where I lived in technically Barrington, Illinois, up through high school, and then went down to Illinois State, go Redbirds, and I won't hold it against any of you who've never seen one of their games. But I got a Bachelor's of Science in History Education. And then, actually moved back to Chicago and spent until 2016, last year, we actually lived in and worked around Chicago. We actually met Katie when we were there in Chicago. And we moved to Clayton because in the fall of 2015, Katie looked at me and said, I don't want to live in another winter in Chicago. And when this is what your car looks like when you walk out of your apartment on a pretty frequent basis, you really can't argue with her. She was a very smart lady. She still is a very smart lady, I should say. That was fun to get my car out of. I basically dug out the back and then just put it in reverse and floored it. So, that kind of explains how we've come down here. And then, where I've worked. During college, I actually interned for an adventure travel company up on the north shore of Chicago in Wilmette. And what they do is, they were the first amateur dog sled expedition to the North Pole back in the early 90s. They have these wonderful kayak trips to Crete. This one is actually just kind of a day kayaking in Chicago. I didn't get to do any of the fun things. I've never seen the North Pole. I've never gotten to Crete. I got to clean out kayaks and then teach all the summer camp programs how to kayak. So sadly, I had not done any of these super fun things yet. And then after college, I began working for an online university. And it was American Intercontinental University, their online campus. If you ever want to know what an online university looks like, the buildings are really boring. All the beautiful brick and mortar campuses that we think of, no. This is something that they got from the Federal Reserve. And it was AIU's online campus, hosted about 26,000 students, and they were actually noted for conferring the most degrees to minorities of all online schools. So they're a phenomenal university for back-to-school people who had less traditional educational tracks. Now, with that being said, unfortunately, they were also on academic probation through their accrediting body for about 60% of the time I was there. Their ground campus was actually located in Atlanta, So the same regional accreditator who does UNC and Duke did AIU's online campus, but they didn't really know much about this online program back then, so they assumed we were a bunch of con artists and just out to scam students. And it was really fun getting hired, and my first day, my boss says, oh, by the way, we're going to have this meeting about the probation we're on. And I was like, did I just take a job with a place that's not going to be a university soon? But they got out of it, and it was an amazing program. I specifically worked in academic integrity. I reviewed cases of students who were plagiarizing and cheating, or situations where the faculty weren't following the university guidelines on how to kind of handle the online classes. So yes, I did actually recommend some students who were cheating in their final courses to be expelled from the university. You want to hear someone who's angry? Talk to someone who just spent over $30,000 on a master's degree, who's now no longer going to be in school. Then, in 2008, to put it politely, I got reorganized out of the company. And I was looking for a job, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and oh, look, we have a pop quiz. Sorry, I didn't know what to do, so I tried to keep it interesting. So, here's my question. What does cooking a turkey at Thanksgiving have to do with event coordination?
Nothing.
That's not a bad answer. So what happened and how I actually got my job with my main client is my wife Katie's aunt actually works for this company called Knoll. And when we were still dating, she took me out to Pennsylvania, and it was Thanksgiving. And her aunt had to get ready and prepare, go upstairs, get dressed up, be nice. And I just stepped into the kitchen and finished getting the turkey ready, getting some of the sides ready and all of that. So it was that willingness to just step in and fix what needed to be done. So then what happened is, and I'll talk more about the event coordination towards the end, but the next spring when they were getting ready for their trade show, she was like, we need someone in Chicago. Hey, Mark was really good on his feet. So they brought me in, and I will talk more about that, but it involved all sorts of crazy things. So then, while I started doing freelance work, before things like the Affordable Care Act, being a single payee for health insurance was not pleasant. It was actually cheaper for me to take a part-time job at Home Depot for 16 to 20 hours a week in the hardware department, and then pay $180 for good health insurance, versus about $1,000 for, if I get hit by a bus, I won't be destitute when they take my unconscious body to the hospital. But while working at Home Depot, I learned some amazing things about companies that truly want to give back to their communities. And one of the things that Home Depot supported me with is actually another story I'm going to tell. This device I made for a 8th grader with palsy. And she was starting a home ec session, but just due to muscle control, wasn't going to be able to cut fabric. And her therapist was actually in the store at about 9 p.m., just very distraught in the hardware department, looking at scissors. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be an odd customer. And she started talking about, everything that was going on. And our store not only said, we'll cover the expenses, but they let me take home some power tools, because at that time, I didn't have much, of my own tools yet. And basically in about 8 hours from when I closed the department about 10 o'clock that night to like 6 a.m. when I met the therapist the next morning, I designed and built this so the girl would be able to do her home ec program. But it was the fact that, one, Home Depot covered the cost of like the scissors, and those are about $45 scissors, but they also trusted me with taking the display parts out of the store so I could work on it that night, trusting me that I'm going to come back with $1,000 in tools the next day, because Home Depot believes in supporting their community like this. And then, okay, I'm on to my hobbies. And so, as folks who came to the Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, I made the picture in the lower corner is actually my grill that I was experimenting with to figure out how to cook things. Fun story, when you move, make sure your grill keeps working, because I fired it up that, probably Wednesday of that week, and one of the burners didn't work, the electric starter wasn't going. So the day of our Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, I got to go to Home Depot, buy a new grill, assemble the grill, and then continue cooking and getting everything ready for it. So I think I like crazy situations. And the pasta dish is just one I really like to make. It's a fettuccine alfredo with prosciutto and peas. Also some of the few pictures I could find of food. And then my big hobbies are photography. Gene, I thought you'd like that. I could technically claim that I'm a professional photographer because I've licensed this one photo to a mortgage company in Chicago. Now, admittedly, with what they paid me, I would have starved to death as a photographer, so I don't claim that I'm a professional photographer. But I have actually been used in marketing, my materials have been used in a marketing aspect. And then for outdoors, obviously, sea kayaking, which entertainingly, as I was looking through all of my pictures, I could not find a photo of me actually in the kayak. So, those are my kayaks hanging from my ceiling, and then what I consider a very pleasant fall day in Chicago. It's not a black and white picture, it's just that gray. And then I love to go cycling. That's my bike in the lower left, and my favorite co-rider, my daughter Emily, on the right. And then hiking, again, I'll strap Emily to my back in one of those kid carriers and go out hiking. I've also gone to, probably the most interesting hike I've had recently was in 2014. I went to Mount Whitney in California, which is the tallest mountain in the 48 states. And as I learned at about 11,000 feet, altitude and I do not get along. I got ataxia and all this fun stuff and decided to turn around before I killed myself. Because my fingertips were going blue, I was getting a little crazy in the head, and pretty much it was that or, you know, killing one of my hiking mates. But it was really cool. For about to the 11,000 feet I got, Mount Whitney is 14,700 feet. So I got a fair, I was up, you can't see where, about in this valley point here. And then you work up and you come back across. All right, and then rock climbing is a hobby that I've had for probably about 10 years now. And it's really fun when you look cool and you know what you're doing like this. The problem is that quickly turns into this, where you're standing there with no idea what you're doing and you're a cat up in a tree. And in case you really want to see it, that's my face as I realize I'm not the master of my own destiny and I'm about to fall off a rock face. Golfing, which I picked up in probably the last 5 years, but something I'm very proud of with this is this picture was taken in Chicago on December 2nd in 2012, so I can prove that Chicago is not always covered in snow like my wife claims. Now, to be fair, it was in the 50s and it got green enough, so we all ran out and went golfing. And then finally, tinkering about the house. This is one of my very successful oil changes on my wife's car. Gotta line up that pan underneath the drain plug just right, otherwise it gets messy. And then about 5 days before we did the habitat build, I had the great idea of let's do backbreaking labor in the yard. So I spent 2 days moving 72 20-pound paver or retaining wall blocks to put a ring around a couple of trees. Yeah, and then I went and did the habitat build that weekend. That was not my best plan. So now on to what I do now. The majority of the time, I'm actually now at home with our daughters, Emily and Harper, who many of you met at my meeting when I was inducted, and then Emily was around when Katie got inducted and she was pregnant with Harper. It's usually quite enjoyable, but every now and then Emily, you know, being 3, gets strong-willed and ties us up to a chair and tries to ship her sister off to Santa. But then the other thing I do is event coordination, and I have another pop quiz. What's the difference between an event planner and an event coordinator?
One talks about what's going to happen and the other makes it happen.
Very good, Dee. That is spot on. Basically, an event planner is the big picture global focus. They look at the budget, they will talk with the client to develop the tone, the design, the who, what, where, when, and then it's up to us lowly event coordinators to execute that design no matter how crazy it may be. We manage things like our relationships with the vendors and the more what you consider the boots on the ground, frontline actions for the event. So what we do is we take an event or a venue like this was the Sheraton Times Square at about 2 in the morning as our AV guys were setting up the room. And the next morning, it will be branded to look, this is actually the entry area, and we had wrapped all these pillars in theme so that when folks came off the elevator, it truly looked like they were in their headquarters back in Allentown for the company called Knoll. They had, the pictures are of like designers who worked with Knoll. We actually recarpeted the floor. We did all this stuff for a 3-day event and then tore it all down afterwards. And it went back to looking like a Sheraton. But when you came up onto that second floor, you would never have known that it wasn't a Knoll-owned property. And then, so what I do is kind of take a nice peaceful scenario. This is the Knoll showroom in Chicago, and then manage the crazy crowds. The fun thing about this picture is their big trade show every year is in June in Chicago, and last year we had about 11,000 people come through the showroom in 3 days. Normally Wednesday, which is this picture, is the quiet day. This picture is we had about 100 people waiting to come into the showroom. That was at about 2 o'clock on Wednesday when it was going to be closing at like 4. So it's gotten very crazy, but this is also why I've earned the shirt that says keep calm and let Turnbull handle it. I've got about one slide left. Good. Time. So basically, when you think about event planning, on the small scale, it may be one person. When you're on a large company team like this, each of these people plays a different role. The gal here is actually Noel's training manager, so she's responsible for all of their training with the folks. Sandy here, she does all of our branding for materials. So like when we have, if you see a vest that has like the company logoing or any of the giveaways we do, she handles all that. That gentleman's facilities, so when we're actually setting up hardware in the showrooms or at like a hotel where we're giving a sales training, he manages that. Linda is what is the closest thing we have to what you consider a true event planner, because she works with our C-suite folks, and then more support team. So really, it's amazing when you get into the corporate events where it's no longer just, you know, like the wedding planner or that kind of situation. You have a whole team and it's all divided out. My focus is actually on the technology side, so registration sites, event apps, things like that. And that was it, but I was going to see if there were any questions, but I see we're actually now a couple minutes over.
Mark, I'd ask if you could stay a few minutes afterwards. Thank you very much. One of the things I hate about being